How many of you people are like, man, I hate it here? Every town I've been to, I get to hear from poor people. The poorest of the poor, the people you don't care about, the people the news won't listen to. Our words don't matter. We're not taxpayers, right? Well, actually, we are. Primary taxpayers in the United States are the working class. The working class, as well as being the primary taxpayers, are also the poor. Makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Yes, trickle-down economics. Do we live in a democracy? Or do we live in the United States of America? We live in what is called a propaganda republic, or a puppet republic. We have the illusion of, our opinions mattering. They really don't. You say you're going to move elsewhere. Well, guess what? I'm in Tillamook, Oregon. There's racism here. There's KKK presence. There's CO2 cartridges. In parking lots. There's homeless people here. There's methamphetamines. There's the blues. If you ain't been infected with the blues in your area yet, thank your almighty creator, whatever it happens to be, or just your good dumb luck that it ain't. Chapel, Nebraska, that's a place that's prime for picking with stuff like that. These folks are getting bad with it too. And people keep telling me, oh, well, sometimes it's one thing and sometimes it's another. Sometimes it's fentanyl, sometimes it's the other. Sometimes it's a mix. So these blues ain't always the same. And then you get to see all these little foils all over the place. And they're all half burnt and crinkled. And we can't get away from it. Now, a lot of these services that they have are for helping addicts primarily. They get more money if they help out an addict. It also helps to add to the statistics. See, that's where the benefit of numbers comes in. For every person that goes in there that smokes pot, that they can go, oh, well, it's pot related. Or, of course, it's cigarette related. We have to write down the cigarette thing, don't we? No, that doesn't matter. Not the way you're going to use it. Good morning, Chris. That is a friggin' beast. My God, dude, you could run down Jedi in that thing. Come and get me, homie. Arr.
Have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Hey, I got a question for you.
What?
So, do you have like an oxygen mask in there being so high up in altitude? That thing is huge.
No,
How do you have kids with a truck that big? Damn. There's nice people everywhere. Y'all need to stop being nice. And I'm not talking about this rudeness that we all going through. You go and you tell anybody about your problems because you needing some help. They'll start telling you about yours or about theirs. Are they needing help? We all need help, dummies. Wake the fuck up. We in the United States of goddamn America. You're out of your fucking mind if you think this ain't a we thing. We the people. Whether you broke or not, whether you homeless or not. You know, you got to see Chris there driving by. Or hear him driving by. What'd he say he was going to do to me? Well, do I take it personal? Of course not. I know he ain't going to run me down. I don't take that as a serious threat. I'm smarter than that. I know the difference between a genuine threat and a, hey, I've got a dark sense of humor. Alright, fine. Have your dark sense of humor. I got mine too. Don't we all? Sometimes that's our personal sense of justice is our dark sense of humor. When you see justice served, you go, yes, justice was served. But what about to a hating American public full of bias? Bias against the homeless, bias against whites right now, very heavily, very prevalent. The most victimized people in our country are homeless. Primarily homeless males. There's only one category where women outrank men, and that's, well, alright, I want you guys to understand what is considered sexual assault by a male. If he touches your butt, that can be sexual assault. He can actually go to prison for that if he just grabs your butt. Just because you didn't want him to. That's the way the American public wants to view it. And as a result, the courts and the judges, if they want to keep their positions and jobs, they should probably do what the news anchors are guiding the American people to believe. Homeless people are bad, okay? Isn't that what we teach? They're all of the worst of the worst of the worst. No, most of us are the victims of the worst of the worst of the worst. We're in a constant state of movement. When you say, hey man, you know what? We ought to move somewhere else. It sucks here. I don't want to live here. It's got to be better somewhere else, doesn't it? Doesn't it? How many Karens are voting? And how many of you are voting? How many of you are taking an active part in an active society? How many of you are allowing bad laws that do affect you, hurt you, harm you, and prevent you from being able to do anything with your great and wonderful ideas? How many of you have had an idea that was ahead of its time, and then 20 years down the road, somebody else finally comes up with it? Because you never had a place to do it. You're constantly moving, and moving is expensive. It's also painful. It puts a lot of wear and tear on you, on your body, on your vehicle, on your pocketbook. It's expensive. And you get to see how many people that if I don't do what they want right when they want me to, that I won't be allowed to be their friend anymore. I'm a bad friend because I didn't do as they ordered based on their ignorance, because they just want to talk about them and then tell you what to do. All right, man, so here's what happened to me, man. Now, you need to probably fucking move, dude. Have you thought about moving? You think about moving? Have you gone to the churches? Holy shit, dude. You think this is my first goddamn rodeo? It's not. Everywhere sucks right now. Is that because of a worker shortage? No, it's not. Is it because of a increase in the cost of everything? No, it's not. It's because of bad government spending, because of greed and stupidity. Why did we give away all of the... Well, we called them battered women's shelters in the 90s and the 80s. All right? but really it was for primarily women and children. Nearly all of them were just for women, but there was a couple of them in Longmont that were for men who were beaten, and that was edgy and ahead of its time, and it was the first one closed down in Longmont was actually the one that helped male victims of domestic violence. What happened is they gave away a lot of the rights of the people who were running these places. And we had a couple of people that had ended up being really highly predatory in the 1980s. You guys who weren't alive for the 80s, like even as a kid, that was some pretty important stuff. It was big. So it continued to happen a little bit across the United States. And there was a real big case with a guy who was in child care who got locked up. He watched a lot of little kids. Now, literally none of these little kids, none of them remembered him ever doing anything bad to them. But he was convicted based on opinion. And after that, basically, a lot of services that had been previously open and access to males being in that position were closed to males, and any male in a position like that was under suspicion. We've got a lot of perverts, and you get to see how many of them I've tried to turn in who later got busted again. But you didn't hear me. You didn't help me get any of the things that I should have had access to, that I was cut off from and harmed because of. Now, when people want to call you friend or family, if they're not going to fess up to the stuff that they did or were a part of, are they friends or family? That's where a lot of you guys end up moving, and that's where a lot of you guys end up on the streets. Ladies, too. You get abused into homelessness. A lot of times, most of the time, it's somebody that you live with, somebody that you're supposed to trust. Mother, a father, a spouse, possibly a sibling, or in some cases, your own kids. Elder abuse is no joke. And just because they're not 65 or older doesn't mean that their kids don't abuse them. I've known a few short women who had sons that were almost 6 foot by the time they were 14 or so. Physically abusive. I was locked up with a couple of kids that were basically there because they had small women as the only people in the household as a care provider. Their mothers, and their mothers were easy to overpower. All over the United States, we've got people who are trying to cope with their problems instead of by raising arms and raising hell, whining on Facebook and YouTubes. No, that's not the only thing you can do. Your I'm sorries are pathetic. When it happens to you, you're going to hope and wish that people will do more than just give you the I'm sorries. We don't get very far because people have their assumptions and they run with them. And the less of a human being you are considered, the less you're likely to be listened to. Now, we've got some wonderfully written laws that are supposed to protect us, but they have no teeth. Of course, the police and all these agencies are so friggin' crooked with covering each other's backsides. They work with each other, they're friends with each other, and anybody who disagrees, well, they're going to assist that person in doing horrible stuff. And that's what they've been doing here. Working together to prevent me from turning them in for 6 months. from turning in the people they work together with, trying to push me to move on, as I have had to do repeatedly, because there is nobody sticking up for me but me in person. That is literally how it is. No, all these fucking punks here, just like everywhere else, all they're going to do is talk about it, because you're just mouths. I actually do something when other people are harmed, but you see that homeless people are not heard. We are not listened to. Nobody cares. We have no voice. You feel like you have no voice? No. You absolutely do. But you don't work together. Every one of you punks wants to pretend like you got it worse than everybody else, and everybody else should just shut up and listen to you. Well, how about y'all go to the local courthouse and all speak up at once? Fucking idiots. See, here's how our predators work. You're homeless, you try to turn in your predators. The cops blow you off, bullshit you, lie to you, and point you in another direction. And if you don't go that direction, they will start to threaten you and then physically harm you, you stupid son of a bitch. Everywhere you go. But you don't want to hear that. You've got your pretty worlds and your pretty lives. Your pretty ideas about how homeless people ended up out here. Here's how you end up out here. As a child, your primary caregiver is an abuser. As an adult, you do not have support from that abuser. If they push one thing on you as help, they're going to throw that in your face for the rest of your life. Even if it's not the help that you needed or agreed on or even paid for. That's how you end up homeless. And once you're homeless, nobody cares. That's where all of you need to be. And that's where your selfishness is taking you. Right into homelessness, homie. And boy, are you going to be surprised about how sandwiches really don't take you that far. You got to go, all right, I can either go to where they have the sandwiches, or I can go to this meeting that's probably going to take 2.5 hours. Sure, it's only a 30-minute meeting, but I got to take a bus there, and I got to take a bus back. Well, if you got the money for the bus, why don't you just buy yourself something to eat? Oh my God, that's what you get. A bunch of people asking questions. These are easy to answer questions, but you're not asking them for that reason. You're asking them to be fucking sarcastic or rhetorical. You're just trying to be a dick. So why don't you go get a job? And see, that right there is another one. It's just an assumption from you. When somebody's explaining to you that they're disabled and you just talk over them, you're a piece of shit. Of course, many of you, when you're disabled and you're in a messed up situation, such as Natalie Bollinger, she's a perfect example, she got help. People did care about her. They did care to help her. They did sacrifice for her. A lot of us have sacrificed for each other, and I don't think it's wrong to do so. No matter where you move, if you think you're going to get away from all the mean type women in the area, well, those mean type manipulative women in other areas are going to be there too, except you're not going to know them. You're not going to know which ones to look out for. You're walking in blind. Same thing goes the other way around. When you're constantly moving, you're not changing anything. And when you're wanting to look the other way to other people's woes and make it just about yours, what are you doing about it? What are you able to do about it? All right, well, if somebody is not capable of doing those things for themselves, Does that mean that they're a bad person? Does that mean that they're lazy because they're not capable? Is it okay to deprive them of resources because they're not able to? Is it okay to ignore any and all crimes against them as if they're, well, of course, hallucinations or some stupidity like that? No matter where you go, same people doing the same stuff. Greed, greed, greed. All of the land is owned by somebody else. When you lose that roof over your head, you're screwed. People want way more for the land than people are able to afford with, well, getting screwed over by landlords. Getting your credit screwed over because they want to keep your deposit. All right? Y'all know that scam. Well, you know, the place was dirty. It doesn't matter if you scrubbed the walls for days. Repainted. Masked it off and made it perfect. They're still going to charge you for cleaning it when you move out. Smart. Alright. I gotta end this video because I need to use the bathroom. I'll be making another one later. The cops do the same crap everywhere. You can't outrun the power of a radio or a telephone. Don't even try. You are where you are. You have the First Amendment first for a reason. And when that doesn't work, that's when you reach for the Second Amendment. Don't go throwing the Second Amendment in everybody's face. If that's the only way that you exercise your First Amendment rights is because you want that gun, you're an idiot, and you should not own a gun. However, a decrease in legal firearms and legal gun owners makes it so that gun owners who don't care about laws are going to have an edge. They're going to know that there is a larger portion of the population that isn't going to have guns. And that will make them more and more brazen in their attempts and their efforts. Except in Texas, where they have so far stopped quite a few school shooters that otherwise would have killed somebody. Teachers having guns in Texas, stopping school shootings because they have a gun right then and there. Woohoo! Rapid response is the best deterrent. No, it's not. Fear that somebody else might have one was the best deterrent. Imagine being a Spartan boy going to school. You walk in with a spear, planning on going in and doing a bunch of mayhem to your classmates and your teachers and all sorts of craziness, but they've all got spears too, dummy. Yeah. But would there be more people whose lives had been ended prematurely if that happened? Oh, of course there would. You do have to put some level of maturity upon the implement that you're putting in somebody's hands. I mean, even little Jason Jeffson with a garden hoe in his hands tried to use it to cut his sister's feet off. Well, that's not very nice. Moving is the worst solution that you can give somebody because it never allows them time to settle anywhere, to get established anywhere, because they're constantly moving. Everything that they have slowly wasting away into the ground, constantly in motion, constantly in use. constantly overburdened, and you don't want to see it. There's a lot of people doing the van life thing that are getting a swift wake up, and it sucks. Some of them are speaking up about it, about how there's a lot of stuff you're not allowed to do. And of course, the opinion of a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white girl counts more than yours 100% of the time when you're homeless. So fuck it, right? You do that to a black person and it's evil and wrong, but you do it to a homeless person and, of course, you're the poor victim. There's nowhere for us to move to. No matter where you go, it's the same stuff. Some places are less expensive to live, but opportunities are less in those areas. Resources are less. The natural beauty is, of course, in the eyes of the beholder, but also what you're able to handle temperature-wise. Can you handle cold temperatures? Can you handle 116 to 120 degree days every day? There are some places you probably shouldn't live then. Good to be radio. Thanks for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper, and your sister's too, and no victim left behind. We the people